So I am Jolynn Allen, and for those of you who don't know, I'm the reason your speaker schedule's been all messed up for the last 2 days. I definitely apologize. Had a little medical emergency here yesterday and had to leave and go test out Savannah's emergency rooms, and it worked out great. It's fine, but I want to thank Zach and Cindy for helping me take care of myself and try to pull it together. And definitely want to thank Jess and Norma for stepping up and switching speaking positions. And Christian and his team for making it all happen and getting me back in here today. And most of all, Humana for the green promotional bag that I threw up in out in the hallway. So they're awesome. Way to support your agents. So I'm actually going to talk to you about the business side of insurance and what the possibilities are in building an agency. One thing I always do is I have a disclaimer. I just tell you that a lot of the topics I bring up are just here to get you thinking about the possibilities that are actually out there. They may not be perfect for your situation. So I always encourage you to work with a professional and make sure that some of the things we talk about fit you. The additional disclaimer today is I'm on some pretty good drugs. So I'm gonna need you guys to give me a little grace. So I am a little odd in the insurance industry. I didn't intend to go into insurance. I actually, as a teenager, worked for a very large tech company. And I was what was known as a corporate research librarian. So I did 7 years at a big tech company and then was a research librarian for the US government. When I was very young, early 20s, had a little boy and was married, I was widowed in a car accident. So I decided to stop, pause, reevaluate life. Left the tech industry. It was my first experience with insurance. I had no idea really how it even worked, but I was incredibly grateful to have it. So it didn't fix the situation, but it let me grieve with food in the fridge and lights on and bills paid. And I was suddenly in a situation where I had to maintain rentals on my own. I had a 20-month-old, and I decided the best way to get through it was to be distracted, so I went back and got an economics degree. I already had a computer engineering degree, but I figured school was always a comfort place for me, and economics degrees are not easy. The first day I was there, they basically said, "Hey, what's your name?" And this lady answered, and he's like, "That's cool. In 2 weeks, you're probably gonna be a business management student." And I was like, you know what? This is probably where I should be right now. It's hard. It'll distract me. Like 20-month-olds aren't already distracting. But got through it. It exposed me to insurance. And during that time, I also was really working on my business owning skills. I had several rentals. I ran my dad's business and started another business on the side. So the thing about me is that I'm probably what you would call a serial entrepreneur. I currently, right now, partially or wholly own 23 separate entities and manage them with a team, mostly family, and they're in 7 different industries. So we're all over the map, obviously in insurance, and I have a Medicare agency, a PNC agency, a gun store, a museum, an import-export business, retail, and education. So all over the place. And I've pretty much figured out over the years, there's definitely an equation to success. It doesn't actually matter the industry. So what I'm gonna show you is kind of what I've built a one-person insurance agency into in this particular agency, 16 years. So for most of us, if you own an insurance agency, you're like the picture of me in the middle. You're a one-man show, and the business lives and dies with you. If you're a sole proprietor, it definitely does. So I originally started like that. I wanted to understand it. I wanted to know everything about insurance, and that was basically my goal for a very long time, was to just have me in the business. I was coming on the heels of selling my insurance audit business. I had a work comp and general liability, liquor liability audit business for several years prior. And those clients came to me and said, hey, we're business owners, we're fairly smart people. Turns out we're getting Medicare. What is wrong with this system? Why do they do this to old people? This isn't cool. I don't like not understanding this program. So I was like, I can help you. I've been a claims adjuster, an auditor, an underwriter, and an agent. How hard can it be? I'll help you. So I helped the first 4 people, got 3 different answers as to what they should do. And I was like, this is a messed up system. Why do we do this to old people? So I decided to start a friends and family insurance agency on the side of my audit business. Within a year, I had 200 of those friends and family. Without advertising, just having clients from my other business transfer over. So I decided maybe I should sell that business, which is a tendency of mine. I've bought and sold businesses for years, and I'm a little bit of an addict for the startup phase in a business. The phase that scares most people is probably my favorite phase. It's an adrenaline rush. I love it. I like the unstable, unknown. My husband will tell you it's a mental health condition. But he was in law enforcement and got shot at for a living, so I'm not taking any guff from him over it. So I started that agency, and those kids up top there, those are my sons, Jonathan and Donald. Johnny is the 20-month-old, and Donald we adopted later when he was a teenager. So one of my reasons why the insurance industry is the one set of business that I haven't gotten bored with or sold is because you can grow this into anything you want it to be. It's the most flexible industry I've ever been exposed to. And what I did when, in particular, Jonathan, the one in the glasses off to the side, when Jonathan was little, I actually changed my mindset from being employed to being self-employed. And that is definitely a shift. When you're an employee, you can pass the buck. You don't have to take it home with you. As a business owner, you do. In your business, even if it's an employee's job, it's your fault. Everything's your fault. It's just how it goes. Everything lives and dies and stops with you. So I looked at this business and decided I was actually going to own it, was going to start bringing on other people into it, and really wanted to make sure it was a lifestyle business. So when Jonathan was little, I was starting to get to the point where this business was costing me a lot in taxes. And if you know me at all with my economics degree, I hate taxes. They're my nemesis. I truly believe our country should run on property taxes and sale taxes alone, and individual taxes shouldn't exist. And so I spend a lot of time avoiding them legally, but I avoid the heck out of them. So one thing I did was when they were young, I actually would pay my kids in my business, even when they were really little. And you can actually pay them up to the standard deduction rate for a single person, which for 2024 is $14,600. So what I would do for those kids is I would pay them to be in the business, which you can do on a W-2 or a 1099, especially on a 1099 as a separate entity. And then I would fund a custodial IRA for them. So I would max out a custodial IRA in the kids' names. And then the rest of the $14,600, which back then it was lower, but the rest of it I would use to make sure my kids had the best lifestyle possible. They had golf lessons, swimming lessons, anything they wanted, any camp they wanted. My business essentially was funding it, but they were contributing by being part of it. So how do you think they contributed? When he was 5, what do you think he was doing? He was in ads. He was shredding papers. He was wearing a shirt saying, "Ask my mom about Medicare." He was at community events. He was at on my Christmas cards. He was just included in it. That's what you do when they're little. And then you teach them to file, and you teach them to send thank you notes, and you stick stamps on envelopes and whatever else you have to do. So this AEP, as life's going to get crazy for a lot of you, look at your family members, look at your nieces, your nephews, your kids, and figure out if you can actually pay them and contribute and start building their future. Because that account, especially Jonathan's, the account I built for him that we contributed to every year until from the time he was 5 until he was 18, is on target to be worth $6 million when he retires without me contributing a single penny since he turned 18. You can do that. You can put your kids ahead in this world. And I have little nieces and nephews now that I'm doing as well. Now it says, ask your auntie about Medicare. It still works 10 years later, 20 years later, it's still a good avenue. Now, for this particular AEP, and for a lot of you in this room, it's not just your kids that you can do this with. It's your parents. How many of you financially help out a retired parent? The sandwich generation, aren't we? Do you know you can do that same thing with your mom and dad? If they're on retirement, they're just on Social Security and they don't have other taxable income, you can actually pay them up to $14,600 in income and do the exact same thing for your parents as you did for your kids. The IRA part's not as helpful, but the paying them, you're going to give mom and dad money anyway. Take the tax write-off against your business. And this AEP, use them for all the help you can get because you're going to need it. So you've got people in your life that are willing to step up, but they're a little more willing to step up when you give them money. So it works that way. My other reason I really wanted to grow the insurance industry is because I was bound and determined to get that guy in the corner down there out of law enforcement. He didn't work the calm side of law enforcement. He worked the meth team. He kicked doors in as a breacher, first guy through the door. I really wanted him to retire the day he was eligible. We missed it by 4 days because there was a weekend, but we gave the government exactly the number of days we needed to and got him retired. And so he retired in his 40s from law enforcement. He doesn't kick doors in anymore. You can obviously tell he's not in insurance, though. He imports. Those are some fun little toys he imported from France. So I wanted to make sure that I could support him and put him in a position where he would see the good in the world and not always the worst of it. Up in the top corner here, you'll see a building. That is what I've figured out the absolute best. With insurance, this possibility is definitely the one that's made me the most money and the most incredible thing I've figured out. All the buildings that I have, and a lot of the agents in this room, they occupy those buildings. They don't pay rent. They don't pay for anything in the building. They're basically on-site property managers for me. But I buy another one almost every year. How much do you think those buildings cost me on a yearly basis? $0. So for this AEP, when we're about to get our butts kicked, and just accept that now, and you're going to be trying to do appointments back to back, how much more helpful would it be to have that building? To have them come to you and you do an appointment at your office every hour on the hour. That's how I operate for years. The reason those buildings are $0 is because I use the insurance agency I look for a building that has 4 to 6 units. With the 4 to 6 units, I want to make sure that however many units I'm not occupying cover the expenses of the building in full. I don't have to make a single penny. I don't care if I profit $4 or $4,000. I just want to break even at least. So I buy the buildings. My agents have a free office. I don't have to even put a down payment on it because there's these cool things called DSCR loans. And then over time, I build all of the equity up in this building. And in the meantime, I charge my insurance agency rent, and then that entity pays my other entity rent, and then I take depreciation on the buildings to offset it, And I don't have to pay taxes on that income either. And yes, that's still legal, just so we're clear. So if any of you are contemplating, can I get a building? Can I afford it? And the reason you haven't done it is because you're afraid that you're going to have to come up with $100,000 or $200,000 down. All of that stuff is not true. There's plenty of ways to do it, and I'm going to show you a few tricks in the presentation. And if you're afraid that it's another liability, buy enough and hire a guy to take care of them, because that's the easiest way to do it. But you can essentially buy another one every year if you want to. You just have to find the right building. You're not going to buy a standalone, because then all the expenses are on you. You always want to make sure the units you don't occupy cover the expense of the building. So the other reason I love the insurance industry is people like you see on the bottom here. That's one of my teams. That's Team Southern Colorado. A bunch of them are here. And our industry is such an opportunity. There's so much potential. But the one thing I find is that our failure rate is pathetically high. And being in 7 other industries, I don't see it in other industries. So it took me a minute to figure out why. Why do we fail at the rate we do? Why do only 11% of agents make it to 5 years? I am very proud to say our agency 5-year success rate for new agents is 68%. So I know that 11% doesn't have to be. And there's a lot of things we do differently that get us to that 68%. And it definitely didn't happen overnight. But with all the opportunity, there's a downside to our industry. One thing I always work with, and when I have a brand new agent, I don't know them, especially if they're coming to me from another team, I want to know, are they a business owner or is this a hobby? Do they think they have a job? Because a lot of them do. And one thing that I find is a lot of people call themselves business owners, but they haven't earned that title. They pretty much are working a job and don't realize that they're haphazardly running a business. So you have to change your mindset. If you want to run a business and have it be successful, you have to realize that it's not a part of you. It's a completely separate entity. It's not an extension of you. You also can't take it personally. You have to look at it objectively and separate from your identity. You have to treat your business like a business, and it'll pay you like a business. If you treat your business like a hobby, it will cost you like a hobby. How many of you have an expensive hobby? You don't want your business to be the next expensive hobby. They can be. They can suck your time and money dry pretty quickly. If you've ever taken any classes from me, you'll know we focus on what's called the 3-legged wobbly stool. The goal in having a business is to have a solid foundation. The only way you have a solid foundation is by having a combination of product knowledge, sales skills, and business skills. Now, most of you in here start with sales skills because you come into insurance with no experience, but you've got one thing. You're at least likable, right? You can sit across the table and at least make people like you. You might not know what you're selling, and you don't know the difference between an HMO and a PPO, but you can at least make them like you. So that's where most of us start, right? So you work on that skill, and then you realize I'd probably sell more if I knew what the heck I was talking about. So you're like, I should probably get some product knowledge, learn what the heck's going on. So then you build that next leg to your stool. The last leg the majority of agents build is business skills. Most agents, before they come to me asking questions, are 3 to 4 years in, which means you have gone out and made 3 to 4 years worth of mistakes before you were like, I should probably figure out what I'm doing. And let me tell you this, it's not your fault. It is truly not your fault you don't have business skills. Our school system doesn't teach entrepreneurship. It doesn't teach business skills. The American school system, and I apologize to any teachers in here, but the American school system teaches you not to be the machine, but to be a cog in the machine. That's what they're producing. So, if you're finding yourself in the situation where you've got a bit of a three-legged wobbly stool and you need to expand your horizons, the best way to build the business skills without you going back and trying to get an MBA now is micro-learning. Pick topics and get the basics of each one. You want to know accounting, you want to know human resources, you want to know contracts. You need to actually just pick a topic and spend 15 to 20 minutes at a time micro-learning. I still to this day spend 30 minutes a day learning business topics. Every day, never fail, 7 days a week. It's something that I want to stay current on, and I always want to know what's happening and changing in the world. In the current world, some days I regret the economics degree because apparently ignorance is bliss. And I don't have that luxury right now. So one thing you need to remember about business is it is just business. It's not personal. So some of the things I'm going to say, you might take offense to. I don't mean it that way. It's definitely said with love. But our industry sets itself up for failure. And a lot of you who are teaching agents are setting them up for failure too. Our low barrier to entry is the number one reason agents fail. It's a double-edged sword. The nice part of our industry is that we will welcome dang near anybody, right? It doesn't take much to become an insurance agent. I see some MLMs out there that put their people through more. We are $1,000 in a couple weeks, and bam, you're an insurance agent. No other business is going to offer that. If you've ever started any other type of business, the average startup time for a normal business is 1 year. You're going to put up $100,000, $250,000, $500,000 just to get off the ground. And to do that, you have to convince someone to fund you. And when you have to convince someone to fund you, they're going to require you do due diligence. You're going to need to show them a business plan, a marketing plan, a cash flow analysis. You're going to have a backup plan. You've got to show them what's going to happen and what the likelihood of each scenario is going to be. How many of you did that in insurance? Yeah, nope. You know what insurance has for a business plan? You wrote down, find the seniors on a napkin and went with it. So we were just laughing last night. There was an agent who was in one of my trainings, and it was about turning 65, and we had a little bit of a language barrier, and she speaks Cambodian and Vietnamese, and I kept saying, just say the age ins, and I looked over her shoulder halfway through the class, and it said, just find the Asians, all the Asians, the 65-year-old Asians, and so sometimes I gotta enunciate, I get that. All right, so our industry, the double-edged sword, while it's a good thing, we welcome almost anybody. Some people we probably shouldn't, but we welcome almost anybody. We don't hold anyone back. But because there is no forced business preparation, it just doesn't get done. It never happens. And when you fail to prepare, you're preparing to fail. So when you're bringing new agents on, if you are not having a realistic conversation with them about what their first 5 years is going to look like, you are preparing them to fail. If you are not helping them set up a business entity, you are preparing them to fail. If you didn't give them a good attitude or mindset towards the fact that this is a business and not a job, you're also preparing them to fail. So if you're feeling like you're bringing people on and they're gone within a year or two and you're just not holding on to your new agents, this is why. Stop and put a process in place with a checklist to make sure that they're solid before they're actually out there selling. So, again, it's just business. I don't care about your feelings. I only care about your success. And I tell my agents that pretty early on. Love you guys, but at the end of the day, it's about you being successful. Because I can love you to death and care all about your feelings, but if I don't push you, you're going to quit. And then what does it matter? So, What's the number one way I know someone's going to be successful or not? The agents that fail out, I almost always have them pegged. I've been wrong about 3 times. Every other one pretty much knew pretty early on in the game whether they were going to be successful or not. This is one thing right here. If you decide that you're going to do this as a sole proprietor, you're pretty much setting yourself up for failure for about 20 different reasons. But the number one thing is if you look at the definition of a sole proprietor is a non-registered, unincorporated business run solely by one individual proprietor with no distinction between the business and the owner. That part is the most important part. No distinction between the business and the owner. So if you screw up on the business world, you're personally liable. If you screw up on your personal life, your business is fully liable. They can take either or. And if someone's not willing to at least get that part set up, the odds are they're not going to do well in the industry. Because that right there is not only a legal standing, it's not only a separate entity, it's also a mindset. I don't care if you're a single member LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp, I just care you're not a sole proprietor. For a lot of reasons we're gonna go over. It takes a week to establish a business. I teach college children to establish a business in a class called Incubator. It's 5 days long. And in 5 days, they complete all of the steps on the next 3 slides. If these kids can do it, so can you guys. Nothing on here takes very long at all. So the first thing you're gonna do is choose a name. Make sure it's available. Make sure it's available in your state. And if you ever have any intent of going across state lines, make sure it's available federally. We've all seen some really big Medicare agents make this mistake and fight over names publicly and throw little hissy fits on Facebook, right? So these are big, successful agents, and they didn't bother to do step 1. So, and then you need to decide who's going to legally be part of your business. Is it just you? Is it going to be you and your spouse, you and your best friend? Do you have like a board of directors? What are we doing here? Who's legally involved? Once you decide that, it helps you decide what type of business you'll be. If it's only going to be you, do a single member LLC, and if your situation changes later, you file 2 forms and you can actually change a single member LLC to an S Corp super easily. Don't let that hold you back or feel like you have to get your ducks in a row first. This was your duck and it's not in a row. This is where you were supposed to start. So the other reason we want to be an LLC or above, sole members, just sole proprietors, they're not eligible for business credit. The only credit they can obtain is in their own name, on their own credit score, on their own credit lines, which makes them ineligible for other things they want to buy, like homes and cars. You don't want your business taking up all your personal credit. You also don't want to be liable for that credit. So then you're going to designate a registered agent, which in most states, that's just going to be you. But if you want to take advantage of some of the friendlier states out there, South Dakota, Wyoming, some of those states, Montana, they'll require you to have a designated registered agent. You pay them $50 a year to receive your information for that state. In the state of South Dakota, there are entire high-rise buildings that are little 8x8 offices for certain types of corporations that are required to have a physical address. And they're empty. You walk through them and it's a ghost town because people pay rent to put dynasty trusts in South Dakota. It's a big business. Articles of incorporation. At this point, you can find them online. They're super easy. They're plug and play. You're just going to enter in your name, your partner's name, whoever's the address, the registered agent. It's very plug and play. We have specific ones for insurance where we've made some minor tweaks. So our agents just pop their information in and they're done. And then you file for an EIN. You go on the IRS website. If it asks you for $150, you're on the wrong website. You need to be on the IRS, but there's a lot of fake websites out there that are just trying to get you to give them $150, and then they send your stuff to the IRS for you. The EIN is going to take about a couple of days to get issued. So we do all of this the morning of day one. If I can get a bunch of 20-year-olds to have this done by lunchtime, you guys can definitely do it, I promise. So while you're waiting on your EIN, you're going to tackle this next step. You're going to actually legitimize your business. So one of the things that we run into, business credit is fickle. It's not the same as individual credit. On the individual credit side, there's a lot of rules they have to follow, and everything is very laid out. Business credit is the wild, wild west. There's not a lot of rules for the underwriters. So they consider things that you and I might think are old-fashioned or stupid, but they do. So some of these I'm going to point out which ones will get you rejected, just for the sake of you not being the first one getting rejected. Your business address. The majority of business credit will reject you for using your home address. They will pull your address. If they see your house, you're an auto decline. You want at least a virtual business address. Now, unless you're welcoming people into your home, you probably also don't want them to know where you live. And if you run a lot of LLCs and you have liability and you could potentially have a lawsuit, you also don't want those people knowing where you live either. So virtual business address or a physical office. Our headquarters building takes mail for all 23 of our entities. Then you need to know your NAIC number. Who knows insurance agent NAIC number? Oh, come on. Nobody? 6411. The reason you need to know that is because every single industry-specific business loan, grant, or application is going to ask you for an NAIC. So just know it so you don't look like a dork in front of an underwriter Googling your own NAIC code. It should be in your phone at the bare minimum. So one thing I will tell you is when you're filling out grant applications or loans, there's things they're always going to ask you. What's the name of your entity? What's the date of formation? Do you have your articles of incorporation? What's your NAIC code? Make a file that has that information in it. It will speed up your process so much. Then get listed on 411 for Yelp. A lot of underwriters in the commercial world will look at your Yelp and see what's on there. If you don't have any reviews, get some. If you have bad reviews, get good ones so they can look at it. They want to make sure you're a verified business. Then get an 800 number. I know that sounds crazy. A lot of them still require it. You can get a virtual 800 number for $4 a month. Don't get declined over an 800 number. And then from there, you're going to get your domain and build a simple website. Most websites nowadays are plug and play. So pretty easy to put a website up. And then you've got your business email address. And that right there is the number one reason I see people actually not get approved. If you have a Gmail or a Yahoo, for a lot of underwriters, that's an auto decline. So make sure it's a info@ and your business address. Establish with Google and Bing and set up a business Facebook page. We do all of that while they're waiting on their EIN to arrive. And then from there, we work on business banking. There are definitely some tricks to business banking. First of all, keep it separate. If your business commissions are going into a personal account and you ever tangle with the IRS, they're going to have a field day with you because you can't distinguish between a personal expense and a business expense. So if you can't distinguish and explain it, they will toss out your deduction and you owe taxes. And then when they find out you screwed up that year, they'll audit the prior 3, and you'll end up owing a whole bunch of taxes. So if you're commingling right now, stop that. Type of account. You should have an operating account Revenue in, expenses out. If you do any type of insurance that requires you to hold client funds, like P&C or some financial products, you need a sweep account. Tax account, that you put your taxes in throughout the year so you're not caught owing a bunch of money at the end of the year. And then a reserve account or owner's equity account, especially if you're running like an S Corp and have pass-through funds. Different types of banks. This matters. This was long, hard-earned information here. How many of you work with a big corporate bank? Big, fancy corporate banks. What's the definition of a small business to the big corporate banks? $1 million in revenue for 2 consecutive years, 1 million or greater. So what are you with $1 million or less? Not who they want to work with. So you're just a decline. If your money is sitting in one of those banks, they don't like you. You're not their people. You need to work with a small bank or federally insured credit union. Small banks that do loan decisions by committee, those are your people. When they say, oh yeah, we're gonna look at your packet on Friday when the committee gets together, those are your people. Those are your favorite bankers. And credit unions, federally insured credit unions, they have access to ESIP money, ECIP. That's a small business owner's best friend. You want to be friends with a credit union. So the thing is, you want a relationship with them before you need them. You don't want to come in all money hungry, like, I really need this loan, my cash flow's messed up, now I want to establish with your bank. You want to be established with that bank, so when you need them, they already know who you are. They already know some history about you, and they won't vet you near as hard. If you come in cold, they're going to vet you like crazy. The last two are things that a lot of you guys have passed up on. Enterprise funds, enterprise and ESIP. Almost every state has an enterprise fund for new businesses. So if your revenue is under $75,000 a year, their underwriting is ridiculously easy. And if you're a little bit bigger than that, then you use ESIP. So Google your state's enterprise fund if you're a new business, especially if you've been in business less than 3 years. And small business grants. I like writing grants personally. I think they're fun. And if you put together that file I was talking about earlier with your data formation and your articles of incorporation, 75% of your grant's written. All you're doing is filling in canned information. So you've got the basics of your business, then you're gonna save in there a canned response about who you are as a business owner, and then a canned response about what your business does, and then from there, you're just gonna tweak it to meet the terms of the grant. So if you're not writing, apply for grants, 1 to 3 a month, every month, January through September. Last year, I got an $88,000 grant to improve diversity in the insurance industry. Do I look like someone who needs a diversity grant? I'm gonna bring on more gingers in the insurance industry. Like, it was for my agents, and my agents got Telemundo commercials, they got radio station spots, they got their RSSA paid for, they got all their startup costs paid for out of this grant. We got another grant for an equipment grant that I'm picking out a printer right now because I was able to get a $2,500 grant to go towards a piece of equipment. Things like that. We got about $120,000 in grant money in 2023. All of these agents, how many of you guys have filled out grant applications? Completely, utterly worth it. And if you get good at it, that $88,000 grant, I put less than 3 hours into that grant. So you may or may not think you actually qualify. Look through on SBA or grantwatch.com. There's a lot of different sites. If you even think you could qualify, like it loosely fits you, apply. Sometimes you'll be the only applicant. It's not as hard as you think. You guys are complicating it a bit, and that's usually what I find when I talk to most agents. So then you're going to build your business credit because now you got your EIN and your bank account and everything's good. So you're going to start building business credit. This is the part you all miss. Apply for a personal credit freeze. You do not want them to access your social security number while applying for business credit. Freeze your credit. It's very easy. You can freeze it and unfreeze it. Super easy to do. And honestly, in the shady world we live in, just freeze your credit anyway. Then they can't do things to you. So just leave it frozen until you need it. Then you're going to apply for a DUNS number. How many of you have a DUNS number? That's good. See, better than last year. Good job. So you get your DUNS number from Duns & Bradstreet. Then you're going to start applying for business credit. Make sure it's useful business credit. Don't apply for credit for the sake of having credit. Apply for useful business credit like net 30 accounts, which usually net 30 accounts work really well with office supplies, janitorial supplies, business supplies, like flooring and things like that for your business, furniture, all those are on net 30. Business credit cards and business travel cards, business gas cards, and microloans or enterprise loans. Once you've had business credit for 6 months, your business is actually eligible for a business line of equity. So much like you have a home equity loan, you can get a business equity loan. When interest rates are low, you scoop up business equity loans. Back a couple of years ago, we got a bunch of business equity loans when they were prime +1, and prime was 2.8. So we have a ton of equity that we can access at 3.8, which right now is a pretty darn good rate for business credit. So then, once you've gotten those ducks in a row, that's when you actually look at turning this into a big business, growing it, bringing on staff, figuring out what you're doing. If you don't have your ducks in a row, it's really not fair to bring someone else into your mess. You want to make sure that you're good and stable and your head's screwed on straight and your finances aren't a giant mess before you bring someone else on without guaranteeing you can afford their paycheck. So look at your business and focus on what your core processes are. That's where you make your money. So all your money-making activities. Then decide how do you have to manage those activities and what the support processes are that it takes to make the business run. Separate those 3 categories and then work on getting the business. You've got it created, legitimized, it's established, it's eligible for funding. The biggest thing before you really want to get too crazy with your finances is you want to be fundable. So if you run into a cash flow issue, you can obtain funds or you already have a line of credit available to fix the situation. So before you bring on employees, you bring on your people. Your people are your accountant, your lawyer, your business insurance agent, your payroll company, and your human resources company. The majority of those are now contract. We don't employ those anymore. Even human resources, it's a service nowadays. Most of us don't have full-time staff for human resources anymore. So then you document all your business processes, everything you're doing or everything you would be doing to grow if you had the time. You're going to look for your drains, determine where you can hire someone to free up enough time to produce enough revenue to cover their pay 4 times over. That's the magic number. You can get by on 3, but you want to be able to free up enough revenue so that they're bringing in about 4 times their base pay, because you're going to have taxes and benefits and other things that eat up part of that. So you want cushion in there. Then you're going to hire staff. Hiring staff should increase your profitability, not deplete it. Whether they're a VA or a real employee in front of you, you want to make sure that they're bringing your profitability up and you're not feeling it deplete you. Zig Ziglar says you don't build a business, you build the people, and then the people build the business. So this last slide I'm going to wrap up with, I want you guys to take a picture of. If you're needing help with topics to do your micro learning or you're stuck on something in particular, this is a great list of resources. The first one's the SBA. If you don't know them, you should. They are your lenders. For a lot of you, SBA is going to be your easiest business financing. And we're out of time, but I'm going to wrap it up real quick here, guys. The next one is the SBDC. If you need help doing your entity, your business entity, SBDC has SCORE mentors who you can book an appointment with, and they will sit down and do it with you. So you have an appointment, and you're held accountable, and you go get it done. So if you have an SBDC near you, let them do it for you. Thrive in 10,000 Small Businesses. Both of those are programs that will provide you MBA level training for free. And then if you complete the program, you get a cool trip to New York and you become eligible for grants and funding and all sorts of awesome things. It's a wonderful program. They do it in sessions per year. Obviously, don't choose the winter session during AEP, but do the spring session, and you get a ton of free education. QuickBooks hosts free classes all the time, and believe it or not, so does AARP. All of you guys that sell AARP, you're eligible for their business training class. And so are your clients. You all met those ones who retired, and it turns out they suck at being retired, and now they're like, I'm gonna go start a business, and they're floundering. How cool of you to walk them through that program and show them that it exists. And then Dun & Bradstreet, there's a ton of information on them. They have a lot of data, especially on the business-to-business side. And this last one, second to last one here, Scotsman Guide. Scotsman Guide has every available type of financing ever invented. For residential, for commercial, DSCR, all of those things are under one website. Scotsman's Guide is like lender Tinder. That's basically anything you can think of. You definitely need that website. And then the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is another great place. You follow that link and go to their grants program. So, and then someone asked me this earlier, where do you get classes for the microlearning? There's a ton of different sites, but Allison, with one L, ALISON, and Coursera, 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 both have a ton of topic-specific training that you guys can take in little chunks of time that you can fit into your schedule. So that's my time, guys. I'm actually over. Christian's going to come yank me off the stage. So thank you. I'm glad we were able to make it work out.